Hey everybody, it's your girl Michelle, and welcome to A Day in the Life with me. Today's video, I am going to be divulging a little bit more about my past. With my father's birthday coming up here on April 1st, I do want to give a little bit more information on him. Things were not always rosy and bright in my adolescent years, but all in all, I can say that I do truly love my father and miss him. A lot of you already know that I was born with a congenital heart defect. I have had 3 open heart surgeries in my 45 years and 1 major heart attack. My first surgery was when I was 5 years old. Then I had my most recent one was in June of 2019. Both of my parents died of heart attacks. Neither of them had any heart conditions before their deaths. I was the one with the heart condition. Growing up, I didn't really realize that not everyone lived like I did. My childhood I never went without. I did grow up in the projects. My family was one of maybe 2 or 3 white families in the area, but I didn't know the difference. I mean, yeah, I knew that I would burn and my friends wouldn't burn in the summertime, and obviously my skin was different than theirs and my hair texture was different, but I wasn't treated any different. There was a lady that lived next door. Her name was Granny Kelso. We lived in townhouses. It wasn't like an apartment upon apartment. They were townhouses, 3 levels. There was a main level, basement, and upstairs. And it was my mom, my brother, and I. My father would come to visit on weekends. He wasn't allowed to visit very often because he was an alcoholic and he was an abusive drunk. He never abused me physically. I was always the porcelain doll everyone was afraid to break. So I was never really touched. But I also knew, even at young age, that if I were to step in between my father and my brother, or my father and my mother, that my father would not hit them, would not throw something at them, that he would stop because he was afraid of hitting me or hurting me. Do you know how difficult that is? To know that here you are, 8 or 9 years old, realizing that if you stand in front of your father, you can save your mother and your brother from being beaten. Only to find out that once I was in bed, they paid for it. The beating was usually worse. My mother, I will never say that she was a saint or she was an angel, because my mother and I did fight. We argued. Any mother and daughter would. Only time I ever remember really arguing or having words with my father was the last time I saw him drunk. He had come over to our townhouse and was talking to my mom, and my brother wasn't there. I don't recall where he was, but he was not there. And I remember my mom telling him, if you're going to continue to drink, you need to leave. The kids don't want you around when you're drunk. And I don't recall the exact words, but my father said something like she didn't know what she was talking about and that his baby girl always wanted him around. And he hollered for me. And I came out. and I could smell the alcohol on him. And my mom's face was already red, and I wasn't sure what for. My only guess now is that he must have hit her because she said that. My dad asked me if I loved him. And I looked at him and I looked at my mom. And I told him, no. I don't like what you're doing. You're hurting my mom. If you're going to be drunk, I don't want you here. You need to go somewhere else. I hate you. I never want to see you if you continue to drink. I saw my father again about 6 months later, or could be a little bit longer, but he had a chip, and it said he was 6 months, clean and sober. And him and my mom started talking more and hanging out more. And he had come to our apartment the weekend before he passed. And I would have these things that my mom and I just called nightmares. And I had gotten up the last night he was there having a nightmare, not realizing that my dad was in bed with my mom. I had gone into her room and scared the crap out of my dad. I don't remember it. I do remember my mom telling me about it. But I had grabbed my dad's sweatshirt, thinking it was my blanket or something. I mean, I was 13. I'm not sure exactly what I thought. But I grabbed his sweatshirt, and my mom took me back to my room, and I went back to sleep. The next morning, my dad was getting ready to leave. He had a dentist appointment, and he had to get back to his parents' house because they were taking him to the dentist. And he was afraid to come in my room to wake me up. He didn't want to wake me, but he needed his shirt. So my mom came in and got the shirt, and my dad left. Then the next day was a school day, so I went to school. I was in the 7th grade. Excuse me. I was in the 7th grade, and I'd gotten on the bus and gone to school. And friends of mine wanted to skip that day. And for some reason, I was like, no, I can't. I don't remember my reasoning, but I knew that I needed to go. And that day in home ec, we had gotten our projects that we were supposed to start in sewing. I was sewing a pillow, and it was in the shape of a telephone. And I had gotten that and came home from school and thought it was strange that my grandparents were there. My maternal grandparents were at our apartment. It's strange because I'd come home by myself before. Wasn't a big deal. And my grandma said, no, they just come over to visit, and, to never mind, everything was fine. And I sat on our couch and was working on my pillow that I needed to get done. My mother came in with my godmother. And my brother had been home as well. He was sitting at the table talking to my grandpa. And when my mom came in, my brother and I were both like, what's going on? This is weird. And my mom informed us that our dad had died. That he had a heart attack when he was in the garage smoking a cigarette at my paternal grandparents' house. And had passed on. This was March 14th, 1989. 2 days before I turned 14. My dad always said I never lived to see 40. He was 39 when he died. My 14th birthday was celebrated at a funeral home. My dad was a recovering alcoholic. He had been clean and sober. At the time of his passing, I think 8 months. And he was trying to better himself. But because he had undiagnosed endocarditis, he died of a heart attack. Endocarditis is a condition, for me and my dad, this is how it worked. Any dental work being done had to have a pre-med, a pre-antibiotic, before having the procedure done, or you run a risk of having a heart attack. I have always had to have a pre-med before going to the dentist. And I can remember my first time going to the dentist, I was given penicillin because, that's a pre-med. That's an antibiotic. And I broke out in hives. I couldn't breathe. It was an anaphylactic shock. And realized that I'm allergic to penicillin and amoxicillin. So going to the dentist is always a treat because I can never remember the name of the antibiotic that they gave me the last time. If my dad only knew. If he only knew all he needed was antibiotics before going to the dentist, he could have lived longer. My dad, born April 1st, 1949, died March 14th, 1989. My first niece, Lisa, was born March 14th, 1996. Yes, 1996. 2 days before I turned 21. And she's the reason that I'm not as sad and mopey on March 14th. I still don't really like to celebrate my birthday. I think my favorite birthdays were probably my Sweet 16 because I had a lot of friends around and they all kept my mind off of things. My 21st because I got shit-faced. And then my most recent birthday, because it was just my son and I spending one-on-one time together. Even though it was in the during all of this stuff that's going on right now, I still really enjoyed the time I spent with my son. So I just want everyone out there to know, tomorrow is not guaranteed. If there's someone in your life that you haven't told them that you love them, you need to tell them, because they might not be here in the morning. When my dad left on the 13th of March, we had no idea that was the last time we would see him. I wonder if I would have done or said anything different had I known. I don't know. Philip Rodney Prieur was my dad. Is my dad. Will always be my dad. And I forgive him for what he had done when he was drinking, because that wasn't him. That wasn't him. Okay, I think I've taken enough of your time. I just wanted to get a vlog out there. I've been feeling kind of melancholy and with my dad's birthday coming up, I just wanted to get this out. Let you guys know that my dad may not have been a perfect man, but in my eyes, he was just Dad. And with his faults, I love him. And always will, always have. I was a daddy's girl. I was put on a pedestal only to be crushed by him dying of a heart attack. So, as I said before, take care of yourself. If there's somebody you haven't talked to, or just make sure the people in your life know that you love them. And remember, be kind. It doesn't cost you anything to smile at a stranger. And it doesn't cost anything to smile back if a stranger smiles at you. Remember, you are loved and you are appreciated. Until next time, guys. Bye.